Now, the projections that have been done by scientists indicate that the Dead Sea would not disappear, but it would shrink significantly. And this is a simulation of what it might look like in 2050, where some of the younger members of the audience will still be around. Some of us may have passed on to see it from another dimension, perhaps. But nonetheless, I think all of us as responsible global citizens do need to look at this. This is a dramatic change. So what are the options before the public and before governments? First of all, there's take no action. And basically have the current trends continue. That means not only is the sea level lower and the north-south extent of the sea change, but also you'll have continued degradation of land and water. You'll have the springs become a bigger problem. You'll have the sinkholes expand in their area with the damage. There are options of transferring water from outside the basin. You heard about the Red Sea, Dead Sea proposal, which is the one which is under discussion right now. That proposal was most recently put forward at the Summit on Sustainable Development in Johannesburg in 2002, recognizing the environmental and social and cultural value of the Dead Sea. And it was presented as a global issue. Clearly, this is a very expensive proposition, and part of it is to get the world community to focus on this as an issue. There is the question of rehabilitation of the Jordan River. You heard about that in the first presentation. This is an issue. It's also something which is an element of the Jordanian-Israeli peace treaty. And then there's the issue of a combination of interventions. And these are all different options which exist. So one of the questions before many is, how does one start to analyze this in greater detail? There has been quite extensive work done over the years on the Jordan River Basin from a wide variety of perspectives and parties. And I think that's important to recognize. As I said, no action. I think it's pretty clear now what types of things will occur. I don't think this is a desirable approach. Now, what is this proposal that's before people right now? And as I say, it is a proposal, not a decision. Well, it's a reflection of a shared vision that's been developed by the three beneficiary parties, Jordan, Israel, and the Palestinian Authority. And it really focuses on this concept of saving the Dead Sea from further environmental degradation, using the fact that there is a very significant difference in elevation between the Red Sea and the Dead Sea, to use that drop and the head and pressure created from that drop to generate energy and pressure, and to use those to both desalinize water as well as provide energy for use into the local area and also into the national grids. And that was also one of the reasons why the Mediterranean Dead Sea options were looked at many years ago, was very much linked to energy generation. And obviously, hydropower does not result in the generation of greenhouse gases, and it would not be contributing to climate change in the sense if you were using coal or fossil fuel to generate an equal amount of energy. And quite clearly, as you heard before, to really provide a very clear sign that there is a possibility of creating a stable, peaceful situation in this region where there is equity and opportunities for social and economic development in all beneficiary parties and territories. So what this involves as a proposal is to build a water intake at Aqaba on the Jordanian side of the Gulf of Aqaba, withdraw Red Sea water, and then convey it to the Dead Sea, with various locations being used for hydropower generation and desalinization facilities, and then discharging it into the Dead Sea at some point to be determined. Now, I do want to be very clear, although this has been very popularly called the Red Sea, Dead Sea Canal, it is not a canal. I know there was one case where there was a belief that it was a large shipping canal looking somewhat like the Suez Canal that ships could pass through. This is not what is being proposed. What's being proposed, and this would need to be examined during the feasibility study, would be either using a combination of a open canal, piping and/or tunneling, creating a conveyance structure with pumping stations to move water from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea. So it is not an open canal. It would not look like the King Abdullah Canal over on the Jordanian side of the Dead Sea Valley, for example. It may be a combination of something which would look like that, plus piping, plus some tunneling. Right now that's not known, but it is definitely not a canal that ships would move between the Dead Sea, and suddenly you have, a port for moving the potash from. Okay, in terms of the layout, then you've basically got this intake, as you can see here, this tremendous drop, and then the filling facilities. Right now, the Dead Sea is at minus 420 meters. As you heard, this type of project could take, if it were to be approved, something on the order of at least 10 years to implement. So the Dead Sea would certainly be at something like another 12 meters lower than it even is now before one would start to be able to incrementally fill it up, a few meters a year at best. Okay, so there's a three-phase approach: water transfer from the Red Sea to the Dead Sea, electricity and freshwater production, and then freshwater and electricity distribution. You heard about this pre-feasibility study that was prepared by HARSA. One would not be starting from zero. One would utilize those findings. There was quite a bit of environmental and social investigation at that point. But now there would be a comprehensive feasibility study and an environmental and social assessment. One group of consultants would be retained to prepare the feasibility study, a second to prepare the environmental and social assessment, to maintain the independence of the investigations. And they would look at the environmental, social, economic, and financial, technical, institutional issues, as well as regional development, stability, and security questions. So essentially what you would have would be an investigation, you'd have an evaluation of benefits, and it would be something to provide the decision makers with information. Consultants do not make decisions. They would only be providing information to decision makers and the public. So the study process then involves 2 studies and then an integrated feasibility assessment, so you can see how these pieces fit together. But also you can see on the bottom of the slide a large number of public consultations and decision steps would be involved. In order to look in more detail at 4 of the areas, there would be complementary sub-studies. One focusing on the Gulf of Aqaba and Iraq, one looking at the water conveyance through the Wadi Arba, one looking at the Dead Sea, and one at these hydropower and desalination facilities. So these would be geographically focused studies looking at the technical, the economic, the environment, social, and they would provide building blocks for the overall feasibility study and the overall environment social assessment. And these would clearly be places where it would be critical to have regional and local experts and institutions involved, since they hold the bulk of the information and experience.